Hi everyone, I'm Jenny Stanley, founder and managing director of Appetite Creative. And once again, thank you so much for joining us. After the magnificent conversation and tips around strategy and interpretation of data from Vika in the last session, we are now going to dive into the future of connected packaging. And we will talk about the benefits brands can get with this type of packaging, the industry trends, and the reasons behind the exponential growth of connected experiences. Joining me in this discussion is Alessio Schiavone, Digital Solutions Manager Europe and Central Asia at Tetra Pak. Hi Alessio, how are you?
Hello, great to see you and hear you, and great to be invited to this nice event.
Lovely to see you again. So to get kicked off, we're asking for a fact that not many people know about you. Is there anything you can share with us?
Absolutely, that's an easy one. I'm other than a very passionate, professional in digital, I'm a pro guitar player, and I own 20 guitars.
Oh, okay, love it. I've definitely learned something new. Maybe we should ask you to play us something at the end.
Next time, absolutely, with pleasure.
I love it. Brilliant. Well, let's get kicked off. So one of the things that we've been obviously talking about a lot is COVID, the pandemic, and most big brands have had their plans changed or turned upside down in the last 2 years. It's really affected everyone. How do you feel that it affected your team? How did you need to adapt? How did Tetra Pak need to adapt?
Yeah, I think like everyone, we have a lot to learn, right? We are of course, one of the key global players in the packaging industry. We have great teams in marketing, in services, in technical services, but there is a lot that we still need to learn and improve on digital. It's very fair to say. And I think we want to keep investing in that stream, in that improvement of competencies, of solutions, of platforms, to really also help our customers grow in their digital transformation. So digital transformation is just, it's something happening for everyone, including Tetra Pak. So one of the things we've been doing is to try to improve our skills, our technical solutions, and of course our partnerships with great other supporters like Appetite. So that helped us a lot to speed up our digital transformation as well.
Do you think there's any other changes that are necessary for brands and corporations? It now feels like we're not in post-COVID, we're not quite there yet, but do you feel we're kind of moving into a new phase and beyond where there's other changes that brands should be thinking about?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, because I'm relatively new in the packaging industry. I come from pharma and healthcare, and I have to say, probably people underestimate the impact of digital transformation in their industry. Even before COVID, frankly, I've not had the perception that digital was super high in the strategic agenda of at least our, the brands that work in the categories where we are active, like dairy, juice, water. I think there is still really a lot of growth opportunities, and many of the brands, one of the things to help them realize is that they will need digital solutions more and more, starting today, and not just in 5 years from now. So kind of create a sense of urgency, right, as they say, in helping brands to really consider initiatives like connected packaging really strategic for their growth. And second is also make it easy to start. That's the big thing that we spent a lot of time thinking about. So digital can look complex and cumbersome, and maybe people think it takes too much investment or effort to get started. But our whole point is you don't need to go from 0 to 100 in one go. Actually, the best way is to start very slowly but clearly, and with the clear focus.
And embrace it.
Absolutely, yeah, and really believe in it. Yeah, that's the point, and be humble, be ready to relearn things that maybe more traditionally companies have not been in this kind of learning attitude for many years in certain it seems. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Since the focus of today is all about innovation and packaging, I know we've been working together for a good few years, but maybe you can tell everyone else a little bit why Tetra Pak chose to implement connected packaging.
Yeah, it goes really to the very essence of our brand. That, as you know, our motto is protect what's good. And I think, in the past, it was, 40, 50 years ago, it was really about providing good quality and protection to the food that people were consuming in a more, affordable, in a more scalable way, fueling the big growth of consumer in traditional categories. But if you think about that same kind of mission statement today, it's not just about keep protecting the food, which, we live in Europe, luckily, where we don't have maybe so much of these issues anymore. But think about, still a good part of the world still has those issues, right? Mm-hmm. How do you reach for high quality, non-contaminated food in Central Africa, right? So we still have a lot to do there, of course. Mm-hmm. We want to be more sustainable, of course, in everything we do. Of course, being carbon neutral, being very sustainable, it's at the core of many of our efforts today. But I think, again, protecting what's good doesn't only mean a sustainable, high quality package for any kind of drink or food. It's also about protecting the information around it, right? And adding value both to the consumers and to the brands that use our packaging. So it's also generating and protecting information that goes together with the physical package. And that's kind of the digital stream of the physical supply chain. So if that makes any sense, I think that's a big, important priority for us.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched actually on sustainability, and we've obviously got tomorrow on that. But I think Tetra Pak also used connected packaging to talk about sustainability. So if I'm right, Tetra Pak have used connected packaging both to educate around sustainability. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. I think if we want to be successful as a system, as a set of nations on sustainability, as always, it's not just about having the right materials, sustainable, biodegradable materials, for example, that impact the environment less and less. But it's also about educating consumers in how to use them correctly, how to recycle them, also helping brands to communicate that they've done significant investments and changes to their whole production setup. And it's important that people know about it and are aware. And if you take a carton package, it does have quite a bit of space to explain about things that happen to the package and to the brand proposition. But of course, digital is the best. I think it's even, it really augments and empowers and improves this storytelling, right? So it's like having a short business card, let's say, which is your traditional packaging design. But then you kind of click to that package in a way, and you access a whole other host of interesting, dynamic, personalized content through the digital connected pack, right? So yeah. that's a fantastic, how can I say, it goes really, really well together. It augments really the power of the package, of the physical package.
Yeah, it kind of opens the door to unlimited space to be able to tell the story. Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, if we say that, a picture paints 1,000 words, well, obviously, you could then put a video behind the QR code. You could then put a lot more behind that as well. So really kind of tell that story and educate, as you say, about sustainability. Of course, the other use is, I should say, for customers. So customers actually using this themselves. What are the main benefits for the brand and for the brand's customers?
So yeah, that was part of the big, in a way, the big bet, right? That we did when several years ago when we started to think about our connected package offering. Is of course how do we prove the value of this project? What does it add to a brand when they invest and they dedicate their time and people to such let's say new projects? Well, the good news is that we have very, very strong, I would say it's very clear evidence that it gives a lot of different types of returns on the investment made. First of all, a couple of numbers. Of course, we want to be data-driven. 90% of the of the customers that have done a connected package project with us in Tetra Pak or with our partners repeated it. So we have people now doing it for over 3 years, repeating campaigns, maybe back to school campaigns. So that's a clear indicator that if it wasn't bringing value, our friends would have not redone projects, right? They would have not have gone through the whole thing again. So that's I think the strongest argument I have. But also in terms of results, it goes really from the beauty of this project is it's very how can I say, very flexible, very easy to adapt to each brand's strategic initiatives. And as I said, it can go from improving engagement rates, so more views, more shares, more users in your database, of course, in a safe, secure way. So from traditional, let's say, marketing engagement metrics, improving or in some cases even doubling through a connected package campaign, to sales results. Of course, that's at the end of the day, the biggest indicator of return. And I can tell you, most of the campaigns we have done through connected package, or where connected package was one of the ingredients of a nicely thought marketing campaign, they really achieved significant growth in sales, in some cases even doubling the quarterly sales results. So very good on the sales impact. How can you push new projects or products, new flavors in your portfolio? So yeah, I think it's very versatile, and it can go from more traditional sales metrics to marketing metrics to new things you can do with connected package. And if for the marketeers listening to us, think about how long does it take to get results when you do a marketing study, for example. So you need to pay an agency to do a marketing research. You need to wait for the agency to roll out their surveys or research, and then usually it takes several weeks or months to get real results that you can work on, and of course a significant budget. So what we have found together, right, is that connected package is a fantastic way, very cost-effective way to get immediate feedback. You want to test how a new flavor is being perceived by the market. You have, as soon as 100 people scan packages, if you put down some kind of survey through our solutions, you can get immediately a feedback. Is it going well? Is it clear? Is it something, is there something that we need to improve on? So I think, again, it's traditional metrics, but also new uses of new tools, right, that replace more expensive or lengthy processes in the marketing and sales department.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that kind of dynamic instant, because of course the results you see throughout the campaign, it's real time. So it's very, very different when you do, as you say, a market research campaign. You've got to wait weeks, months for the results to come back. By that time, it might even have moved on, and some decisions might have already been made, whereas this is real time. So, that kind of dynamic element, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah. And one other thing is also, as a brand, you want to be valuable, right, for your customers. You want to know them more. I think it's a loop, right? The more you know your customers, the more you can provide them not only the right physical product, but also in the right format, in the right size, through the right channel, but also the right digital experience. So if the majority of the people that engage with your brand digitally is, people looking for information, you will clearly provide more granular, more curated, right, information to that audience. But if other of your consumers maybe just want to have fun, entertainment, games, you can immediately switch to those people with other contents. And the two things, the beauty of this is that they can coexist, right? You can really tailor the digital experience in a dynamic, flexible way. So that's fantastic.
Oh yes, because you can also change the age or the male or female, and if you choose that path you go down, you can then change that experience in real time for that consumer, which is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Maybe talk to us a little bit, because there's two different ways of doing connected packages, isn't there? There's the static QR codes, but there's also the unique codes, and Tetra Pak have the ability to do both.
Yeah, that's interesting, because in my experience, and also with your help, we really spent a lot of time thinking about, let's say, the front end. So again, the content for the consumers. Is it better to use a web application versus a mobile application that you download? So there is all that discussion, but especially for people working in packaging and that know the production part related to producing millions and millions of physical units in a safe, clean, sustainable way. This aspect of printing the codes is quite key. It's actually quite key. It's a bit technical, but it's very specific. So Tetra Pak invested literally millions in specific printers that can print unique codes on a mass-produced volumes for retail, for example. So what we try to do is to bring an element of, in a way, personalization and uniqueness to a mass-produced product like packaging, right? And what is the power, let's say, of unique codes? Again, once they're printed in our what we call converting factories, where we produce the packaging material, first of all, you can incorporate some information on the packaging material directly to each of those codes. So if I consume a package of milk somewhere in Paris or in Milan, I potentially could already access. That's up to the brand, of course, to decide which information they want to open up to their consumers, but you could include informations on the origin of not only the milk that you're consuming, but also the packaging that contains it, right? So it has this kind of, I call it a bit of a digital fingerprint, which is unique, which is secure, because we have also a very secure global cloud infrastructure to store these codes and make them available to different people in the supply chain and consumers. And if you think about it, putting this digital identity mark, right, on each package enables a brand to even push further this personalization. What I say is that a physical package, when I try to explain to brands why they should think about connected package with unique codes versus static codes, I came up with this comparison. It's a bit like having on a browsing history of a consumer, right, of us, you can follow, basically you will know that specific physical package consumed, on a certain day, in a certain hour, enters the digital browsing history of that consumer in a very clearly identifiable way. And that physical package scanned at that time is not the same package, maybe of the same flavor, of the same brand, scanned 2 days after. So, of course, this brings a potential of precision, of detailed information on the habits of your consumers, which is unprecedented. And you really create this one-on-one unique relation between the consumer who is scanning through their phone and that specific package produced in that specific place and consumed in another specific place, for example. So that really brings to the full potential, I think, the value of connected package.
Definitely. And the kind of additional data points can just tell a whole new story.
Exactly. Also, you have, as a brand, it's probably the best way to make, in a very simple way for the consumer, to make sure that the product that they have scanned and that they have in their hands is that specific product. So it's not the same package of milk scanned 3 times, but it's actually 3 different packages of milk. And of course, that has a whole impact in understanding how often they buy, what do they buy, why do they buy. So it takes really to the maximum the level of precision.
Yeah, and also kind of gives some information from the time that product was packaged to the time that actually ended up in a consumer's hand. That's a length of time that I think probably without that you wouldn't have. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, we're just speaking, of course, from a marketing standpoint, but there is a whole other set of advantages that you can achieve as a brand when you think about improving the efficiency of your supply chain, working better on your distribution model, reducing inventory. And of course, maybe it's not exactly for this audience, but it's a huge potential for any food and beverage brand, and even retailers, I would say. So again, it's a very specific technology. We call it pico printing, and it's also a bit of an advantage of the carton packaging, because I'm not really sure that you can achieve these unique codes printed on each package when you work on, for example, PET bottles or cans. So it's something, the design of the package remains exactly the same, so super high quality, and the unique code is printed in the same exact quality of the rest of the package. So it's really a big advantage, I would say, from all points of view, that we can offer to brands working with us.
Absolutely. And flipping back to the marketing reasons, of course, you can then open up possibilities like loyalty cards, incentivized purchase, because of course you've got to know that the next scan is actually another packet. It can't be the same one. So that then opens up so many other possibilities there back on the marketing. So many different ways. Really interesting. Taking connected packaging on a whole, is there, you look after Europe and Central Asia, is there any particular country or any particular area that's more advanced with this? Why? Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's another nice question. I work, of course, we are a kind of a network of professionals within Tetra Pak, and I often speak. I actually had a call just this morning with my colleagues from China. I hear my colleagues in Americas, and I think one peculiar trait for everyone that works in Europe is that, of course, we are, we call it Europe, especially in big companies, Europe, Central Asia, but that means maybe 25 different countries, right? And each country does have their, very own specific purchasing habits, their traditions, their language. So as you know very well, when you develop and you roll out a connected package project in Europe, you need to think about, again, translations, different settings maybe of the phones, which again our peers in Americas don't have, right? That's one big market, basically one main language. So yeah, that's absolutely interesting, and we did see those differences. They very clearly through. In the ways that brands think about their marketing approach. Some are very skeptical about, for example, people scanning the packages. They said, that was a feedback from my colleagues in the Nordic countries. They're very skeptical that people are interested in, QR codes, in a kind of, if you want to diminish a little bit the whole point. But basically people say, people in my markets are not scanning QR codes. While in other markets, there is this how can I say, much stronger belief in those digital tools. And actually, I think it's a misconception, right? We know very well that QR codes are the de facto standard, right? In connectivity, in getting information quickly, easily. But again, the perception about the kind of the stereotype, you could say, about those tools changes a lot when you move throughout Europe. Also, again, the way I can mention this, there are countries like Russia where the government is pushing a bit more on the use of codes. Again, not of course for marketing purposes, but for example, legislations. So our colleagues in Russia have been really very active in the past years, because there is a legislation that will require every single package of milk sold in Russia to have a unique code. So imagine the potential for that. So very different. But I think if I look at the kind of the bottom line is you need to start. You need to do a first project to learn and find for yourself what is your best way right forward with digital solutions and connected package.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also different reasons. It might be around a competition, but it might also be around like information, like you said, the traceability of products, or even just information how to use something or recipes. But being able to have that connection with the consumer and have that kind of two-way conversation is different for different brands and different age groups. But interesting that.
Correct.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and again, I think it's really interesting to mention that even countries like smaller countries, we did projects, for example, in Croatia, or again maybe countries that people don't, for some reason, again maybe have a stereotype that they're not super digitally mature. Actually, the results were exactly telling us the opposite. People were loved, the ability to connect, to play games, to win prizes through a QR code, basically. So I think it's really, maybe sometimes we have assumptions or stereotypes that are really not grounded. Another common thing that we get asked, question we get asked, is about fraudulent scams, right? Many brands, especially in some countries, I have to say kind of southern countries, the most, like Spain, Italy, Greece, and they're very worried, but if I put a promotion with unique codes and people can, or with codes in general, people might be able to scan them in the stores without buying the product. And that's a fair concern. But again, reality tells us that we have lots of ways to, again, especially working together, right? We spent quite a lot of time on this in building your campaign in a way that it's, let's say, or that you really minimize the potential impact of fraud. And second, the evidence tells us that it's kind of a false belief. We never had issues with the fraudulent scans, really, from Switzerland to Croatia to France to Germany. So again, it's part of the learning, and maybe we need to bring this knowledge and expertise to a wider community with events like this, right? To secure, to make people feel more safe about starting these projects.
Yes, most definitely, most definitely. To wrap up, I mean, how do you see connected packaging evolving in the next few years? Do you think we've reached the maximum potential? I mean, projects from, you said you started a few years ago. Is the number of projects the same, or tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, that's nice. Of course, I'm partial, right? But I have to say, having worked now for over 2 years on this initiative, I'm very, very confident in the future of connected package. In a way, I can say the first era of the use of codes and QR codes is dead, is beyond us, right? So I can understand some of these, people being skeptical about using QR codes because they still have in mind a static QR code, which brings me to an extremely boring web page that doesn't basically say anything interesting. So that era, I hope that it ends as soon as possible, right? I still see in my kitchen too many products that have this kind of terrible, very early approach to connected package. So I think that era, I hope it dies out very quickly, but there is a lot of potential for all the other things that we have started to learn and be knowledgeable about. And that, I think, is the future. And I cannot honestly believe or think that one of our customers working in dairy, in juice, in soups, can really think about being competitive and being close to their customers if they don't start to learn about this kind of new tools. It's a must. It's simply a must. So we will see a huge expansion.
I agree. Really agree. Well, thank you so much, Alessio. Thank you for joining us today. Some really, really interesting insights there, some really interesting facts. Thank you again so much for your time. Always a pleasure to chat with you.